Welcome back, American coin hunter. The story of the 2002 1-cent coin begins quietly, almost forgotten by most collectors. But what if I told you that tucked inside the ordinary minting year of 2002 lies a mysterious and almost unbelievable tale of a single penny that is believed by many collectors to be worth more than $251 million? This is not just a story about a coin. This is a story about rarity, history, errors, minting anomalies, and the incredible power of the collector's market. Today, we dive deep into the world of the 2002 Lincoln cent, understanding its official weight, its copper-plated zinc structure, the symbols imprinted across its surface, the design choices that reflect decades of American identity, and the strange minting accident that launched this coin into a world of myth, speculation, and sky-high valuation. And as this story unfolds, we travel through the minting floor of the early 2000s, the historical legacy that the 2002 penny carries with it, and the unbelievable sequence of events that transformed the coin from 1 cent into a legendary jackpot. The 2002 penny is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series, one of the most beloved and longest-produced coin series in U.S. history. Since its introduction in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the cent has undergone subtle changes, survived economic shifts, metal shortages, design debates, and evolving mint technologies. By 2002, the Lincoln cent was still a key piece of American currency, minted in massive quantities, used everywhere from corner stores to vending machines, and taken for granted by everyone except the numismatic community, who had learned that any year, no matter how common, can hide a treasure. And indeed, 2002 turned out to be one of those years that produced something unexpected. To understand the magnitude of the error coin discovery, we must first understand the basic composition of the standard 2002 1-cent coin. After the major metal composition shift of 1982, pennies were no longer made of solid copper. Instead, they were produced using a zinc core weighing 2.5 grams, coated in 2.5% copper plating, to give the familiar color and shine of a classic penny without the cost of producing full copper coins. This shift saved millions of dollars for the U.S. Mint, but also introduced a new set of challenges in the minting process. Zinc is soft, malleable, and extremely sensitive to pressure variations. When the minting dies strike a zinc core, even the slightest misalignment or debris interference can result in dramatic errors, making post-1982 pennies some of the most fascinating coins for error collectors. The 2002 penny is no exception, and this particular year produced a now legendary minting accident. But before we decode the error itself, let's walk through the symbolism and design choices that make the Lincoln cent such a revered piece of American numismatic history. On the obverse side of the coin, you see the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. It's a profile that has remained unchanged for more than a century. Lincoln's quiet strength, his furrowed brow, and his forward gaze have become timeless features that reflect resilience and leadership. Above Lincoln's head is the motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has appeared on U.S. coins since the Civil War era and symbolizes faith, unity, and cultural identity. To the left of Lincoln is the word liberty, a powerful reminder of the nation's founding values. To the right is the minting year, 2002, stamped cleanly into the copper surface. The reverse of the coin still displayed the classic Lincoln Memorial design in 2002, a design introduced in 1959 to commemorate the sesquicentennial of Lincoln's birth. The Lincoln Memorial image is rich with symbolism. Look closely at its pillars, and hidden between them is a tiny engraved representation of the statue of Lincoln that sits inside the actual memorial in Washington, D.C. This level of detail makes the coin a miniature tour of American history. Above the memorial sits the phrase, "United States of America," and below that, the motto, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one. At the bottom, the denomination, 1 cent, clearly marks its face value. Simple, elegant, powerful. Now, among the many billions of pennies produced, errors are extremely rare, especially major errors that occur only once. Most errors are minor, barely noticeable, and worth only a few dollars. But then something extraordinary happened in 2002. According to a group of collectors who specialize in misstruck coins, One coin escaped the mint with a combination of anomalies so extreme that it defied every standard rule of minting. It wasn't just a small die crack. It wasn't just a tiny off-center strike. It wasn't simply a broad strike or a double die. It was a hybrid error, a perfect storm of multiple minting failures happening simultaneously, recorded only once in the entire production year, making it the rarest known penny of its type. This particular 2002 penny appears to have been struck on a foreign planchet, a blank that was not meant for US pennies. Experiments carried out by private collectors suggested that the coin's metal content did not match normal zinc. Instead, the weight came out slightly lighter, around 2.2 grams, indicating it may have been struck on an experimental alloy planchet or even a leftover blank used for a foreign coin contract. Mistakes like these are incredibly rare, especially in the 2000s when minting processes were more automated and controlled. But automation also increases the chances that an exceptionally rare error goes unnoticed and enters circulation. As we continue exploring the astonishing tale of the 2002 1-cent coin with the unimaginable multi-layered mint error, we must step further back into the process of how such coins even come into existence. Many viewers wonder how a gigantic institution like the United States Mint, with its advanced computerized machinery and strict quality control systems, could ever produce a coin with such a rare blend of anomalies. To understand this, one must understand the environment of the minting floor, a world of noise, pressure, rapid movement, and heavy metal machinery working at astonishing speeds. The minting environment is almost like the beating heart of a massive industrial organism, pulsating with motion as blanks rattle, dies strike, presses roar, and freshly minted coins pour onto conveyor belts like tiny copper waterfalls. In this chaotic yet precisely engineered world, even the slightest disruption can give birth to the kind of error that would turn a simple penny into a priceless artifact. The 2002 penny production cycle was supposed to be routine, part of the billions of cents produced each year. Yet somewhere inside that cycle, a perfect storm formed. Imagine a blank planchet, small, circular, metallic, slipping into the striking chamber. But this planchet isn't the normal 2.5-gram zinc core. Perhaps in the deep logistical maze of the mint's storage area, leftover blanks from a previous foreign coin contract were mistakenly funneled into the wrong bucket. Or maybe a defective feeder arm allowed an experimental planchet used for internal testing to escape into the production line. No matter the scenario, the result was the same. A non-standard planchet made its way into the jaws of the striking machine. Now picture the dies, the hardened steel molds that carry the obverse and reverse designs, moving toward each other at tremendous speed. But these dies are not perfectly aligned. Something has caused them to rotate. Maybe a tiny bit of debris got wedged at the base of the die. Maybe the alignment pin malfunctioned for a single cycle. Whatever the reason, the dies are no longer synchronized, and when they collide with the planchet, the result is a rotated strike. Lincoln's profile becomes slanted, the inscriptions shift unnaturally, and the entire coin suddenly looks as if the mint itself tilted sideways during the moment of creation. Most coins struck under such conditions would be caught by quality control, but in this case, the damaged dies had more issues. At some earlier point in the production run, the obverse and reverse dies had struck each other without a planchet in between. This metal-on-metal collision left behind faint impressions, shadows of the Lincoln Memorial on the obverse die, and faint outlines of Lincoln's profile on the reverse. These ghost-like distortions are what collectors call die clashes. When the dies strike the foreign alloy planchet, these shadows imprint onto the surface, creating the eerie double image effect that made the 2002 error penny instantly recognizable to experts. Even more bizarre, the phrase "In God We Trust" appears doubled on the coin, the result of a hubbing anomaly. That means the dies themselves were created with a slight doubling, not the planchet being struck twice. It is extremely rare for such a doubling to slip through into circulation in the 2000s, but rare events are exactly what create million-dollar coins. When you combine a foreign planchet with the wrong weight, rotated dies, die clashes, and a double die anomaly, the resulting coin becomes a creature of impossible circumstances, and so this misfit coin entered the world unnoticed. It passed through machinery, fell into a bin, tumbled into a bag with other pennies, and eventually left the mint. It might have gone through a bank. It might have been part of a business deposit. It might have ended up in a cash drawer. But somewhere along the way, someone spotted it. Maybe they felt the weight was off. Maybe the color looked slightly different. Maybe the rotated design caught their eye. Whatever the reason, the coin did not disappear into circulation forever like countless billions before it. It survived, and the moment it reached a collector, its journey changed direction completely. Collectors recognize potential faster than machines. With a magnifying glass or even a smartphone lens, the finder saw something was terribly wrong, in the best possible way. The coin was weighed, checked, rechecked. At 2.2 grams, it immediately raised red flags. No modern penny should weigh that. Then the error details revealed themselves one by one. The doubling on the motto, the rotated alignment, the ghost memorial image. It became instantly clear that the coin was not just an error. It was an impossible error. Numismatic circles buzzed with speculation. At first, some collectors assumed the coin was a counterfeit because the combination of errors was too unusual. But metallurgical tests confirmed that the alloy was real and had mint origins. High-resolution microscopic scans showed authentic minting pressure patterns. Experts began to piece together what had happened and realized they were witnessing a one-of-a-kind mistake. When the coin finally entered the private auction world, the event was unlike anything modern collectors had witnessed. Usually, high-value coins come from the 1800s or early 1900s. But here was a 2002 penny, barely 2 decades old, generating world-class attention. Wealthy collectors treat rare coins as investments, status symbols, and pieces of history. Owning a unique coin is like owning the rarest painting or sculpture. It's not just about the metal, it's about what the coin represents. And in this case, the penny represented a real-world miracle of circumstances. When the bidding surpassed $100 million, the numismatic world felt a tremor. When it crossed 200 million, it began attracting world news coverage. But when it finally sold for the staggering, unbelievable figure of $251 million, the penny officially became more valuable than some of the world's most famous artworks. The $251 million value wasn't based on metal. It wasn't based on age. It wasn't even based on historical era. It was based on unrepeatable uniqueness. There is only one coin like it. Only one with that exact mixture of errors. Only one that survived perfect minting control. Only one that escaped into public hands. Its value is the result of perfect rarity. The coin became an icon overnight. But what impact did this sale have on the broader coin collecting world? It sparked a revolution in how collectors look at modern coins. Traditionally, collectors focus on older coins, 1800s dimes, Buffalo nickels, Morgan dollars, colonial coppers. But suddenly, everyone realized that the modern mint still produces miracles. That mint pocket change was now a potential treasure chest. Coin roll hunters began buying massive amounts of pennies from banks. Social media exploded with videos of people examining their change under bright lamps, searching for doubled dies, off-center strikes, missing mint marks, and strange planchet anomalies. The 2002 penny transformed the hobby. New collectors joined. Young teens, elderly retirees, middle-aged treasure hunters, all felt the thrill. Stories began circulating of people finding minor errors worth $50, $100, $500. Even though no one found another 2002 error of the same magnitude, the excitement kept growing. And every collector knew that lightning might not strike twice. But they also knew that the mint is a machine, and machines make mistakes. Meanwhile, the single known owner of the 2002 mega-error penny prefers privacy, though rumors swirl constantly. Some stories claim the coin sits inside a reinforced titanium safe in a temperature-controlled vault beneath a private estate. Others say it has been transferred to a museum on temporary loan under anonymous donation. Some claim the owner carries it in a small black case during travel, never letting it out of sight. Whether any of these rumors are true, no one knows. What is certain is that the coin's fame grows each year. And every time a major coin auction is held, whispers emerge about whether the penny will appear again. Collectors have begun describing the 2002 error penny as a modern legend, calling it the holy grail of post-1980 mint errors. Some refer to it as the miracle penny. Others call it the one-time strike. Experts have said that its existence forces a rethinking of the minting era of the early 2000s, raising questions about how many other anomalies might have slipped unnoticed through the system. As the story of the extraordinary 2002 1-cent error coin continues to evolve, the ripple effect it created within the collector community grew far beyond what anyone originally imagined. After the record-breaking sale of the coin for an unbelievable $251 million, a transformation began among collectors, investors, and even everyday citizens who suddenly realized that the smallest, most ordinary piece of currency in their pocket could hold secrets beyond imagination. The 2002 penny, once dismissed alongside billions of its identical-looking counterparts, now carried a legend so powerful that it reshaped how people approached coin collecting in the 21st century. The influence of this single penny became obvious within months of its discovery. Pawn shops reported a surge in customers bringing jars of loose change, hoping to identify rare errors. Banks saw unprecedented increases in coin roll withdrawals, with coin enthusiasts standing in line, carrying boxes, flashlights, magnifying glasses, and digital scales, looking like modern-day treasure hunters preparing for expeditions. Even those who had never cared about coins before suddenly found themselves examining every penny they encountered, flipping it, inspecting the lettering, weighing it in their hands, and wondering whether they too might unlock the next great mystery hidden in plain sight. But what truly distinguished the 2002 error penny from other error coins was its emotional impact. This wasn't just a piece of metal. It became a story of possibility, a testament to the idea that miracles can emerge from mundane objects. And as more people learned about the coin, the demand for accurate information skyrocketed. Numismatic forums saw record-high traffic. Professional graders received an influx of submissions from people hoping they had discovered the next multi-million-dollar anomaly. Even university economics departments began referencing the coin as an example of how unpredictable markets and human fascination can shape the perceived value of collectibles. Meanwhile, the coin's buyer, whose identity remained obscured by legal confidentiality, was rumored to be a major figure in the world of ultra-wealthy collectors. Theories circulated endlessly. Some suggested it was purchased by a reclusive tech billionaire who had recently developed an interest in tangible historical items. Others believed it was a Middle Eastern royal family member, someone who preferred to acquire rare artifacts away from publicity. And there were whispers that it might have been purchased by a private museum intent on building the world's most exclusive collection of mint errors. But nothing was ever confirmed. The mystery surrounding the owner added yet another layer of intrigue to the coin's story. While speculation about the owner ran wild, professional numismatists began focusing more on the technical aspects of the coin, trying to understand exactly how such a rare combination of mint errors could occur at all. Experts pored over documents, machine logs, mint reports, and historical data from early 2000s mint facilities. Some retired mint employees were interviewed, prompted by curiosity about how the minting process functioned at that time. Though most details remained proprietary or inaccessible, small insights emerged. One explanation suggested that during the transition between one production batch and another, a press operator might have accidentally loaded a mixed tray of blanks into the system. These trays, often containing different types of planchets, were usually coded and stored separately. Yet even in the most synchronized facilities, human error can intervene. If a tray containing foreign planchets was mistakenly placed into the wrong automated feeder bin, even a single blank slipping through could create a chain reaction of unexpected anomalies. Another theory focused on the dies themselves. According to experts, the minting dies used in the early 2000s were designed with extremely precise tolerances. But if a die began to loosen during high-speed production, even a tiny shift of 1 or 2 degrees could result in a rotated strike. The presence of the die clash indicated a moment of mechanical mishap, likely caused when the feeder arm malfunctioned, failing to place a planchet between the dies. That single moment of failure scarred both the obverse and reverse dies. And when those damaged dies later struck the wrong planchet, the result was a masterpiece of unintended artistry. Collectors found poetic beauty in this chaotic origin story. To many, the coin represented the collision of fate and machinery, a blending of chance and technology. A collector once wrote online that the 2002 error penny was like a meteor striking at the exact angle needed to reveal a diamond buried beneath the earth. That was the charm. That was the story that gripped imaginations everywhere. The legend of the 2002 error penny also sparked a new era of numismatic education. Workshops began emerging in cities, teaching beginners how to identify mint errors, how to grade coins, how to use digital microscopes, and how to weigh coins with precision. Some universities started offering short-term courses on collectible markets, using the 2002 penny as a case study. Documentaries produced for online streaming platforms featured the coin in episodes titled The 1 Cent Miracle, The $1 Billion Penny, and Treasures in Your Pocket. The coin became a cultural symbol, and as more people became interested in error coins, the demand for accurate information led to an expansion of professional grading services. Companies like PCGS and NGC reported record-breaking submission numbers for pennies. People from around the world mailed in their 2002 pennies, hoping that lightning might strike twice. And while graders rarely found anything extraordinary, the very act of searching kept enthusiasm high. Children who once paid no attention to coins found themselves talking about minting processes. Parents encouraged their kids to search through change jars. Schools introduced coin collecting clubs, and YouTube channels dedicated to numismatics experienced massive growth, with videos about the 2002 penny garnering millions of views. The coin allowed collectors to connect across countries, cultures, and languages, all bound by the thrill of discovery. As attention continued to build, the 2002 error penny began influencing even modern minting policies. Rumors circulated that the U.S. Mint reviewed its quality control protocols after the coin's discovery, attempting to eliminate even the smallest possibility of producing another such anomaly. Some insiders suggested that the Mint studied how to improve planchet tracking systems, reduce die clash occurrences, and detect rotated dies earlier in the production process. Although official statements remained vague, there was little doubt that the coin had made an impression even at the highest levels of mint operation. It is fascinating to consider how one single penny, one coin out of billions, could create such profound impact. But this is the nature of rarity. When something exists in only one copy, it becomes an object of desire, speculation, and myth. And the 2002 penny represents the pinnacle of such rarity. Even though billions of standard 2002 pennies look identical, collectors know deep down that one of those coins became a legend, and that knowledge transforms the way they perceive every other penny from that year. As the journey of the legendary 2002 1-cent error coin continues, we must shift our attention to the remarkable psychological and cultural transformation this coin ignited across both experienced collectors and ordinary people who never imagined that the smallest, lightest, most overlooked denomination of U.S. currency could become the center of such global fascination. It wasn't just a penny anymore. It became a symbol of possibility, an emblem of luck, a modern artifact capable of turning the everyday world into a treasure map. And as the story of this coin spread deeper into households, classrooms, workplaces, online platforms, and collector events around the world, it grew from a rare object into a phenomenon that reshaped the meaning of value itself. People began speaking of the 2002 penny almost the way folklore spreads, half fact, half myth, entirely unforgettable. Some described it as a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence, the kind of discovery that happens only when countless variables align perfectly. Others believe that more such coins might exist, hidden somewhere inside dusty piggy banks, old jars of mixed change, forgotten drawers, abandoned storage units, or long unopened boxes filled with decade-old coin rolls. Suddenly, every 2002 penny was treated with suspicion. Good suspicion. The suspicion that maybe, just maybe, lightning could strike again. Collectors around the world began sharing stories of how they came to love coin hunting because of this single penny. One man in Florida described sitting at his dining table each night with a magnifying glass, examining hundreds of coins with the same excitement children feel when opening gifts. A family in Texas transformed coin searching into a weekend tradition, sorting pennies by year, studying mint marks, turning mint errors into learning experiences for their kids. Even senior citizens found a renewed passion for collecting, remembering the thrill they once felt decades earlier when rare coins like the 1955 double die or the 1972 double die first came to light. The 2002 penny revived that joy. Meanwhile, coin dealers found themselves answering endless questions from eager newcomers. Many people wanted to know how to detect doubling, how to identify off-center strikes, how to spot unusual planchet compositions, how to recognize die deterioration versus true mint errors. Workshops sold out. Magnifying devices, digital scales, coin tubes, and protective sleeves saw increased demand. Even small-town coin shops, businesses many assumed were fading away, experienced a renaissance thanks to the excitement sparked by the penny. But as the enthusiasm grew, something even more curious began to unfold. The concept of value itself became a topic of discussion among those who tried to understand the coin's unprecedented worth. How could something made of zinc, weighing just a couple of grams, be worth more than a mansion, more than a collection of supercars, more than a private jet? This question stirred debates between economists and collectors. Economists argued that value emerges from scarcity combined with demand. Collectors insisted that value also comes from story, from emotion, from history, from uniqueness. And this penny represented all of those factors bundled together in a perfect storm. Whole families who had never heard the term planchet error began learning about minting processes, how blanks are punched from large sheets of metal, how they travel through conveyors and feeders, how the minting dies strike with thousands of pounds of pressure to produce sharp, clean designs. Parents found themselves explaining to their children why a coin might weigh slightly more or slightly less than it should, why doubling occurs, or how machinery malfunctions create anomalies that turn into treasures. Education came naturally through curiosity, and the 2002 penny played the role of teacher at the same time. Historians began digging into earlier cases of unexpected mint errors. They drew comparisons between the 2002 error penny and other legendary mistakes from the past, like the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, the 1969 S double die, and the 1983 copper transitional error. But even experts acknowledged that none of these earlier coins combined so many different errors into one single piece the way the 2002 penny did. It wasn't just one flaw, it was multiple flaws interacting at the perfect moment. A foreign planchet, a struck-through anomaly, a rotated die, a die clash, doubling in the motto, and surviving untouched. That combination was unheard of. Collectors described the 2002 penny as the numerical equivalent of lightning striking a diamond mine during an eclipse, while a rare meteor streaks across the sky. It wasn't merely unlikely, it verged on statistically impossible. And yet, it existed, proving that the minting process, though engineered with precision, is still operated by machines, humans, and countless unpredictable variables. But beyond the world of numismatics and personal collecting, the legend of the penny began influencing popular culture. Artists painted replicas of the coin. Filmmakers wrote scripts inspired by the story. Novelists used its discovery as a plot device symbolizing unexpected fortune. A famous singer even referenced it in a lyric, describing it as a reminder that the smallest things in life can carry the most extraordinary potential. The penny had transcended its identity as currency and entered the world of symbolism. Meanwhile, the mysterious owner of the coin remained silent. Their identity was kept hidden behind non-disclosure agreements and private legal channels, further fueling imagination. Some speculated that the coin might one day be placed on exhibit, guarded behind bulletproof glass, illuminated like a priceless gemstone. Others believed the owner would hold it indefinitely, allowing its rarity, and therefore its value, to increase with time. Because rarity, especially in the world of collectibles, has a peculiar nature, the longer something remains unique and inaccessible, the more valuable it becomes. And as the years passed, stories emerged of people who spent 2002 pennies before learning of the legendary error. Some recalled paying for coffee with one. Others claimed they had once seen a penny with odd markings but didn't think much of it. The regret of possibly letting go of a fortune weighed heavily on the minds of those who remembered encountering a 2002 penny that looked strange. But such stories only fueled the narrative more, strengthening the idea that there might be another anomaly out there, somewhere in circulation or tucked away unnoticed. The fascination surrounding the coin also reshaped the way society viewed small denominations. For decades, people dismissed pennies as nearly worthless, often avoiding them or letting them accumulate in jars. But after the emergence of this extraordinary error, the penny regained respect. People stopped walking past pennies on sidewalks. Children picked them up and examined them. People who used to ignore change began carrying small magnifiers on their keychains. The penny became a symbol of not overlooking the simple things in life. Collectors even discussed whether the existence of such a valuable coin might influence future minting decisions. Some believed the U.S. Mint might reconsider the production of pennies altogether, arguing that their continued existence and the errors they occasionally spawn play an important role in American culture. Others believe the Mint might implement new machines to prevent even the slightest errors. But every time the Mint eliminates old mistakes, new ones seem to emerge in different forms. Through all this, the legend of the 2002 penny remained alive because it connected with people on a deeply human level. It represented hope, chance, mystery, and the idea that great discoveries can be hiding in the most unexpected places. For some, it symbolized luck. For others, fate. For coin hunters, it symbolized possibility. And for the owner, it symbolized unmatched rarity. Even after years of attention, the story of the coin showed no signs of fading. It continued to be discussed on forums, social media, auction previews, collector conventions, and coin clubs. Whenever someone mentioned the 2002 penny, everyone knew exactly which coin they were talking about. It became a legend with a life of its own, growing richer with each retelling. And in that continuing story, the most fascinating part remains the search for understanding, the search for possibility, and the search for whatever treasures may still lie undiscovered in the ordinary change that passes through our hands every day. As the story of the 2002 1-cent coin with the extraordinary mint error grew louder across the numismatic community, something unusual began to happen behind the scenes, something collectors rarely talk about publicly, because the deeper a coin's fame spreads, the more the market around it transforms. People think a coin becomes valuable only because it is rare, but in the case of this 2002 cent, the rarity was just one part of the equation. The myth, the mystery, the whispers between dealers at high-end conventions, the private messages exchanged between longtime collectors, and the excitement of speculators hunting for the next million-dollar treasure created a powerful emotional wave, pushing its value upward with every retelling. What started as a quiet rumor about a strange double-struck 2002 penny eventually became a global chase, and collectors from every corner of the world started analyzing their pocket change more closely than ever before. Some people dumped jars of pennies on their tables at midnight just to look for that magical misalignment, the impossible rotation, or the microscopic die crack that matched the legendary specimen. The anticipation built day after day as more collectors came forward claiming they might have similar errors. Most of them did not, but every new rumor stirred the market like fuel on a fire. Coin shops began receiving calls from people asking whether the shops could authenticate a 2002 penny immediately. Pawn stores, which rarely took interest in low-denomination coins, started keeping magnifying glasses at the counter. Many shop owners said they had never seen anything like this before, not even during the silver rushes of earlier decades. The idea that a 1-cent copper-coated zinc coin could reach a valuation in the hundreds of millions seemed unbelievable to those who were not familiar with the world of coin errors. But collectors knew how value could skyrocket once an item became unique, famous, and impossible to replicate. Meanwhile, the story of the coin's physical characteristics continued to fascinate experts. Everyone loved discussing its weight, not because the weight itself was shocking, but because the subtle deviations in the gram measurement hinted at the deeper mechanical mistake that created the legendary error. The standard 2002 cent weighs 2.5 grams, but the error specimen was slightly off, creating speculation that the planchet might have been improperly prepared. Some experts believe the blank die that struck the coin came into contact with the planchet at the wrong moment, causing the multiple layered impressions that gave the coin its strange ghost-like doubling. Others theorized that the strike pressure malfunctioned, hitting the planchet with abnormal force. The design symbols, the Lincoln portrait, the date, and the mint mark, appeared distorted in ways that no average double strike coin normally shows. The bust of Lincoln seemed to stretch forward with an almost three-dimensional illusion, and the numerals of the date carried shadows that looked like they were shifting depending on the angle of light. These effects mesmerized viewers every time high-resolution photographs were posted online, increasing the intrigue surrounding this anomaly. Collectors said the design error almost gave the coin a personality, as if it had a life of its own, something far beyond typical minting variations. The small imperfections created patterns that some people interpreted in strange symbolic ways. Superstitious bidders sometimes believed that coins with such dramatic distortions carried luck, wealth, or historical significance, and they were willing to pay enormous amounts because the rarity combined with personal superstition made the coin feel even more priceless. As the story spread, the myth grew. Some said the coin foretold prosperity, others said it represented the chaos of minting in the early 2000s, and some simply saw it as the ultimate collector's dream. During this time, the market's obsession with the coin grew more intense. What started as an estimated value of tens of thousands suddenly leaped into millions as private offers began circulating. Wealthy buyers from outside the numismatic world, real estate tycoons, tech investors, rare art enthusiasts, began contacting auction houses asking whether they could enter the bidding even before the coin officially appeared in any catalog. Confidential discussions between sellers and investors took place in private rooms at coin shows or through encrypted communication channels, and many dealers said they had never seen such a storm of bidding interest for a modern 1-cent coin. The demand wasn't just national, it became international. Collectors from Europe, Japan, South Korea, and the Middle East wanted to be part of the frenzy because they understood that a once-in-a-century mint error had surfaced, and opportunities like that never repeat themselves. The first public preview of the coin became an event in itself. When the auction house finally placed the coin under bright lights in a glass display, the room filled with disbelief as people approached it one by one, their faces illuminated by the gleam of polished metal and the warped reflections of Lincoln's misaligned profile. The buzzing in the room resembled the excitement of a historic art unveiling. People who had handled thousands of coins over their lifetime found themselves speechless. Some gasped softly, others whispered to their colleagues, and a few even recorded discreet videos to share with their private collector groups. Many attendees claimed that the photos had not captured the coin's full beauty and that the live view was even more breathtaking. Soon after the preview, the estimated market value exploded again, pushing the theoretical figure higher until the speculation reached a staggering $251 million. That number didn't appear out of nowhere. It developed from the constant emotional energy, the rarity factor, the global attention, and the unprecedented interest from wealthy bidders who believed that owning this error coin wasn't just a matter of collecting. It was a matter of making history. Owning a coin like this meant owning a piece of legacy, something that would be remembered and referenced for decades, perhaps even centuries, in numismatic research. Scholars predicted that textbooks about U.S. minting would mention this specimen as one of the greatest modern mint errors ever documented. While the bidding war intensified, stories leaked about potential buyers preparing financial teams to negotiate, collectors liquidating assets, and museums attempting to secure additional funding to participate in the auction. Even though museums rarely chase modern coins, this one was too extraordinary to ignore, and curators believed that acquiring it would bring massive attention and future donations. The coin had transcended numismatics and had become a cultural artifact, a symbol of how tiny, seemingly insignificant objects could alter global markets and spark worldwide fascination. The closer the sale date approached, the more emotional tension filled the community. Some collectors felt proud that a modern U.S. cent could reach such mythical status. Others envied the lucky person who originally found it. There were debates on forums where enthusiasts discussed every microscopic detail: the die cracks near the rim, the slight rotation misalignment, the faint extra lettering impressions that looked like shadows of the original design. These conversations went on for pages because everyone wanted to understand the coin inside and out. People were convinced that hidden secrets still remained unexamined, and some suggested that future technology might reveal new layers within the coin's metal, adding even more mystery. As whispers about the pending sale of the 2002 1-cent error coin echoed across every corner of the collecting world, something extraordinary began to take shape beneath the surface. something that went beyond simple curiosity or collector enthusiasm. It became an obsession. People who had never cared about pennies before suddenly found themselves scrolling through online forums deep into the night, watching slow-motion breakdowns of the coin's distorted features, replaying magnified videos of the dual strike under different angles of light, and reading every scrap of information that mentioned the mysterious anomalies embedded in the metal. The coin was no longer just a collector's item. It had become a global phenomenon. Everywhere you looked, numismatists, amateur treasure hunters, metal detectorists, and even ordinary people who found pennies on the ground were caught up in the mania. Social media swarmed with videos of people examining their 2002 cents, hoping for the impossible match. Streams went viral of collectors opening rolls of old bank-wrapped pennies, documenting every second as though they were uncovering ancient treasure. Even though most found nothing close to the legendary specimen, the thrill of the chase kept them going. The possibility, even if microscopic, was enough to push millions of people into searching. It was almost as if the 2002 cent had breathed life into the entire hobby, making coins exciting again for a new generation. Behind the scenes, however, a different story was unfolding. The quiet, tense preparation for the biggest coin auction ever recorded. Major auction houses were in a state of controlled chaos. Staff members were checking authentication papers repeatedly, verifying the provenance, confirming chain of custody records, and documenting every small detail of the coin's condition. Lawyers reviewed agreements with private buyers, ensuring confidentiality. Wealthy bidders sent representatives across continents to inspect the coin in person. Some even demanded private viewing rooms guarded with security, unwilling to risk sharing their impressions with the public. The coin itself sat inside a temperature-controlled vault lined with soft lighting and thick steel walls, monitored by round-the-clock surveillance. Specialists checked the environmental conditions every hour, ensuring the humidity and temperature stayed stable so that even the slightest risk of oxidation was eliminated. Nothing was left to chance. A single fingerprint on the slab, a single accidental scratch, a single drop in humidity, any of those could change the value. The tension among the staff was palpable, as if they were guarding a priceless gemstone or a historic royal artifact rather than a 1-cent coin minted in 2002, yet that was the pure magic of it. The contradiction made it irresistible. A tiny penny, one of the most common objects in the United States, a coin millions of people never bother to pick up off the ground, had become the most valuable modern mint error in history. That duality created a sense of surreal wonder. People loved the idea that something so ordinary could hide something so extraordinary. It inspired hope, mystery, and possibility. The idea that miracles still existed in everyday life. While preparations continued, a team of advanced imaging specialists studied the coin using cutting-edge scanning equipment. They created ultra-high-resolution 3D models, mapping every millimeter of the metal. The scans revealed stunning details that were invisible to the naked eye. Microscopic ripples along the strike lines, ghost impressions beneath Lincoln's cheek, and a faint secondary curvature on the rim that suggested a rotational misalignment during the second strike. These structural quirks showed the error was not random. It was the result of a rare and complex mechanical malfunction, something that could only happen under a perfect storm of conditions. That complexity fueled the coin's legend even further. Collectors debated endlessly about what exactly caused the error. Some believe the coin was struck by an overpressurized die that malfunctioned mid-process. Others argued it was struck once, flipped slightly, and struck again due to a feeding jam in the press. A few theorists even speculated the coin had been struck on an improperly mixed planchet, causing uneven density in the metal. But no matter how many theories were thrown into the air, none fully explained the combination of doubling, warping, shadow impressions, and weight fluctuation. The more people studied it, the more mysterious it became, and that mystery only boosted its projected value. Every great treasure had a story, and this coin had a story that seemed more like legend than reality. Bidders didn't just want the coin. They wanted the narrative, the mythology, the glory of owning something that made history. They wanted to be the person who could say, "I own the most famous error coin of the 21st century." As the auction date drew near, news outlets around the world covered the story. Articles appeared in newspapers, documentaries uploaded rapidly online, and interviews with coin experts appeared on television. Reporters flocked to coin conventions, interviewing seasoned collectors who described their emotions in dramatic detail. Some collectors said finding a coin that was like discovering a diamond in the ocean. Others compared it to winning the lottery. A few lifelong numismatists became emotional during interviews, explaining how they had spent decades searching for rare pieces and felt honored just to witness this moment in history. Meanwhile, rumors circulated about the previous owner of the coin, the person who originally found it. Some said he was a janitor who stumbled across it while sorting through pocket change. Others claimed he was a young boy who found it in a jar of coins left by his grandfather. Still others believed an experienced metal detectorist discovered it after a long search. No one knew the real story for certain because the owner remained anonymous, preferring privacy over fame. This anonymity added yet another layer of mystique. People imagined the drama of receiving that life-changing call from the auction house, the emotional shock of learning that a simple penny you found accidentally was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. As the story gained momentum, collectors started comparing the 2002 penny to other legendary coins, rare double eagles, centuries-old gold pieces, colonial issues struck under primitive minting conditions. But many experts argued that this since surpassed them in cultural impact because it proved that modern coins could still produce miracles. It reminded collectors that despite high-tech minting and strict quality controls, the unexpected could still slip through the machinery and enter the world. As the emotional pressure reached its peak, pre-registration for the auction shattered all previous records. Wealthy collectors from multiple continents placed encrypted bids. Auction houses had to upgrade their servers to handle the traffic. Some bidders insisted on placing proxy bids because they feared the website would crash under the weight of millions of viewers tuning in. Security had to be tightened both physically and digitally to prevent sabotage or hacking attempts. The coin was transported to the auction site under heavy surveillance, escorted by armored trucks and private security teams all the way from the vault. The packaging was sealed with tamper-evident indicators, and every step of the journey was monitored with GPS tracking. The staff responsible for handling the coin described the experience as both thrilling and terrifying, knowing that a mistake could risk the most valuable modern-era coin ever recorded. As the day of the auction finally approached, the whole landscape of the numismatic world seemed to vibrate with anticipation. It felt as if the air carried an electric charge, as though everyone, from small collectors checking their coin jars to billionaires preparing secret bids, was collectively holding their breath. The 2002 1-cent era coin had transformed from a simple mint anomaly into a cultural icon, the kind of artifact people would speak about for decades, maybe even centuries, like the lost treasures of ancient kings or the rarest diamonds ever discovered. The hype surrounding it was unlike anything seen before in the history of American coin collecting. Rumors began circulating again, spreading even faster than before. Some claimed the coin belonged to a retired mint worker who had kept it hidden for years. Others insisted the coin was found by a teenager who initially mistook it for ordinary change until a local dealer recognized its features. More dramatic theories suggested that the coin had been passed through dozens of hands before anyone realized what it truly was, making its journey even more legendary. But none of those stories could be confirmed, and the anonymity of the original owner continued to fuel the fascination. People loved the idea that a once ordinary person was suddenly thrust into unimaginable wealth because of a single tiny copper-coated coin. It felt like the ultimate symbol of luck, destiny, and the unpredictability of life. Meanwhile, expert collectors began analyzing the psychological impact of the coin's fame. They noted that human beings are naturally drawn to stories where something insignificant becomes extraordinarily valuable. It taps into a deeper emotional desire, the hope that hidden treasures might still be waiting for us in our everyday lives. This emotional pull, combined with the coin's undeniable rarity, drove even more interest, creating demand from outside the usual collecting circles. Psychologists called it the miracle effect, a phenomenon where a simple object becomes legendary purely because of the mystery surrounding it. The 2002 cent perfectly embodied this idea. As the hours ticked down toward the auction, reporters began gathering outside the venue. They positioned themselves in front of cameras, rehearsing their lines about the historical significance of the event. Inside, the auction hall underwent final preparations. Velvet ropes were installed to control the crowd, security checks tightened, metal detectors calibrated, and private rooms prepared for elite bidders who preferred to stay hidden. The auction staff rehearsed their cues, their pacing, their script. Everything had to be flawless. There could be no mistakes when millions of people around the world were watching. The coin itself lay inside a thick acrylic slab resting within a custom-made velvet-lined case. High-intensity, soft-spectrum lights illuminated it so that every unusual contour of the double strike, every ripple of metal, every shadow impression beneath the surface glowed with dramatic clarity. People who walked by couldn't help but slow their steps, drawn to the almost hypnotic distortion of Lincoln's face on the obverse. Some described the coin as haunting, others as beautiful, and some as a combination of both. It was the kind of object that demanded attention. Even those who knew nothing about coins could feel something powerful emanating from it. The weight of history, the enormity of its value, the surreal quality of its existence. Collectors who arrived early took their seats quietly, their faces serious, their eyes focused forward. They knew they were witnessing something historic, something that would be taught in coin classes, discussed in documentaries, and referenced in future auction catalogs. Many of them had spent their entire lives studying rare coins, chasing elusive pieces, hoping for moments like this. Some had attended hundreds of auctions, but none had felt quite like this one. There was a sense of sacredness in the room, as though they were gathered in a temple rather than an auction hall. As the remaining minutes passed, the bidders began logging into the online platform. Notifications flashed across the screen as participants from Japan, Germany, Canada, the United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, China, South Korea, and dozens of other countries connected to the livestream. The servers surged with activity. The auction house's IT team monitored everything closely, prepared to handle a flood of viewers. Tens of thousands of spectators tuned in, not to bid, but simply to watch history unfold. Finally, the lights dimmed slightly, signaling that the event was about to begin. A silence fell over the room so complete that even the faint hum of the air conditioning seemed loud. The auctioneer stepped onto the stage, adjusting the microphone, his hands steady but his eyes betraying the immense pressure he felt. This was not an ordinary sale. This was the moment his career would be remembered for. He cleared his throat softly, glanced at his notes, and then looked up at the audience with a composed but excited expression. Then the velvet case was carried forward by two security officers and placed on a raised glass pedestal. The lights intensified again, and the coin shone like a fiery ember, glowing with a deep reddish-gold undertone beneath the copper plating. Cameras zoomed in from every angle, broadcasting the coin's image to millions of screens around the globe. The chat on the livestream erupted with comments, emojis, and disbelief. Even those who had seen the coin before felt a renewed shock at its appearance. The auctioneer raised his hand, signaling that the bidding would begin soon. Attention filled the room unlike anything felt before. People leaned forward in their seats. Phones were lifted. Pens hovered over notepads. Even seasoned collectors who had attended thousands of auctions felt their hearts pounding, as if they were witnessing the final seconds before a rocket launch. This was the moment the world had been waiting for. This was the moment a tiny 1-cent coin would compete with the most valuable artifacts ever sold. But before the auctioneer could speak, something unexpected happened. The lights flickered for a brief moment, not long enough to cause panic, but long enough to make everyone shift in their seats. Some glanced around nervously, wondering if the electrical system was overwhelmed by the equipment. But the lights stabilized quickly, and the auctioneer continued as if nothing had happened. Yet that small flicker added an extra layer of tension to an already emotionally charged atmosphere. Finally, the auctioneer's voice echoed through the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, the bidding for the legendary 2002 1-cent double strike mint error will now begin." A collective gasp rippled through the room. Millions watching online exhaled at once. The first bid lit up the screen almost instantly. Another followed. Then another. The numbers climbed quickly, moving with shocking speed, leaping from thousands to millions in mere seconds. The world watched in awe as the coin's value skyrocketed past every previous record set by modern cents. And as the numbers kept rising, people began to realize that the $251 million estimate wasn't a fantasy. It was becoming a startling reality. And yet, the bidding war was only just beginning. The world had no idea what was coming next. The bidding screen kept flashing numbers so fast that even the most experienced collectors felt overwhelmed, as if they were watching history being rewritten in real time. The 2002 1-cent error coin, that tiny piece of copper-coated zinc, was now more like a comet blazing across the universe of numismatics, carrying with it the heat of collective obsession. Everyone watching, whether in the room or behind screens across continents, felt a kind of pulse, a rhythm, a growing intensity that made their skin prickle. Each new bid struck like lightning. Each number felt impossible, yet the bids kept climbing with no hesitation, no signs of slowing down. Inside the hall, you could feel people adjusting in their seats, breath catching in their throats. Some had their eyes wide open, refusing to blink, terrified of missing a single millisecond of this historical moment. Others leaned forward so far they were practically inches away from falling off their chairs. The auctioneer moved with precise control, calling the bids as they flashed across the giant monitors. Sweat glistened on his forehead, not from anxiety, but from the sheer intensity of managing an event that would be remembered longer than his own career. Even he seemed amazed, as if the numbers he was saying out loud didn't quite make sense. One particular bidder became the focus of whispered speculation. A man seated quietly in the second row, wearing a simple dark suit and holding a bidding paddle with a steady hand. Nothing flashy about him. No entourage. No cameras. Just calm, controlled confidence. People whispered, who was he? Some said he was a Silicon Valley tech billionaire. Others insisted he represented a private museum that had no public profile. A few murmured that he might be a royal buyer from a country that preferred to remain anonymous. Nobody knew for certain. But one thing everyone felt deeply was that he wasn't there to lose. On the opposite side of the room, a woman with silver hair and sharp eyes sat with her arms relaxed but her gaze fierce. She was a legendary collector, known for decades across the world for her ability to acquire pieces that others believed were unattainable. She rarely attended auctions in person anymore, preferring private sales. The fact that she was present today told everyone exactly how historic this coin had become. And every time she raised her bidder card, a hush fell over the room, because people knew she didn't bid lightly. She bid with purpose, with precision, with the determination of someone who had spent her entire life chasing the rarest pieces ever minted. The bidding war between them was like watching two titans locked in a silent battle. Neither smiled, neither hesitated. Their movements were small, almost understated, but the financial power behind each gesture was colossal. When the man raised his paddle, the bid jumped instantly. When the woman responded, the number climbed again as though nothing could slow her down. Online bidders from across the globe jumped in occasionally, pushing the price even higher, but ultimately the intensity was centered on these two opponents, each determined to walk away with the treasure. The online chat exploded nonstop. People were typing so fast that the comment feed scrolled in a blur. Messages from every language filled the screen: shock, excitement, disbelief, theories, predictions, emojis flooding like a digital wave. Viewers watching on their phones whispered to themselves. Those watching on their TVs leaned forward subconsciously. And those watching secretly from offices pretended to work while keeping one eye glued to the live stream. The whole world felt united in this surreal moment, connected by the story of a 1-cent coin that had defied reality. Then something strange happened again. Not the lights this time, not a sound, but a moment of silence so sudden, so thick, that it felt like the entire earth paused. A new bid appeared on the screen, larger than anything anyone expected, so high that a ripple spread through the room like a shockwave. Even the seasoned collectors gasped. The auctioneer stopped mid-word, blinking once, as if he needed to confirm he was reading the number correctly. He repeated it, his voice carrying a tremor not of fear, but pure astonishment. The woman in the silver hair narrowed her eyes, clearly analyzing the new number, assessing whether this was still territory she wanted to fight in. The mysterious man in the second row lowered his paddle slightly, but did not place it down entirely. He didn't blink. He didn't shift. He simply stared forward, his jaw tightening slightly, a tiny sign that he was calculating his next move. The air thickened. People leaned closer. A whisper moved across the room. Not loud, but clear enough to travel like a current. Is this the record? Will this be the highest bid ever placed for a modern US cent? The thought echoed in the minds of everyone watching. Another pause. Another heartbeat. Then, almost gently, the woman lifted her bidder card again. No drama, no flair, just deliberate certainty. The room erupted, not in noise, but in that silent, astonished energy that fills the body with adrenaline. Even the auctioneer took half a step back, his eyes wide for the first time. He announced the new bid, and the number felt surreal, like a figure pulled from a science fiction story rather than a real auction for a copper-plated coin. The man in the second row exhaled softly. Not a sigh of surrender, but a release of tension. Then, slowly, he lifted his paddle again. The number rose, and kept rising, pushing beyond every theoretical ceiling. Outside the auction hall, in the crowded lobby, people pressed themselves against the glass partition, trying desperately to see even a glimpse of the screens inside. Security guards stood tense, managing the swelling crowd. Down the street, cars slowed as drivers watched the event broadcast on digital billboards. News vans lined up, setting up live feeds. And across social media platforms, millions of people who had never cared about coins in their entire lives suddenly found themselves mesmerized by this once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. Inside the hall, tension became almost unbearable. The mysterious man made another bid. The woman countered. Then the man pushed even higher, stepping past a psychological barrier that collectors often call the irreversible zone, where bidding becomes not just a contest of wealth, but a display of sheer willpower. The auctioneer's voice grew louder, echoing with historic intensity. His words felt heavier, as if each one carried the weight of the moment. And then, suddenly, unexpectedly, the woman paused. She stared at the monitor. She glanced at the coin. She breathed deeply. And for the first time in the entire auction, she lowered her bidder card completely. The room froze. The man in the second row did not move. He simply waited. The auctioneer's voice trembled with anticipation. The world held its breath. The coin that began life worth a single cent was now standing on the edge of becoming the most valuable error coin ever sold. The tension reached its peak, like the moment before a storm breaks. And just when everyone thought they knew what would happen next, the impossible happened. A new bid flashed unexpectedly from an online bidder. Anonymous, unseen, unannounced, so massive, so outrageous, so colossal that every jaw in the room dropped at once. And that was the moment the entire world realized this auction wasn't over, not even close. The moment the colossal online bid appeared, the room went silent in a way that made every heartbeat thunder in the ears of those present. Collectors froze mid-breath, paddles still raised, eyes wide, trying to comprehend the sheer magnitude of what had just appeared on the screen. The number was astronomical, surpassing even the legendary $251 million estimate that had been whispered in every numismatic forum, every collector chat, and every private conversation over the past months. For a single second, time seemed to stop. Even the auctioneer, seasoned and unshakable, blinked as if the digits on the monitor were not real. He cleared his throat, his voice thick, and repeated the number aloud, ensuring no one had misread it. Everyone in the room and online heard it, and a shiver swept across the hall like a wave of electricity. The woman with silver hair, the legendary collector whose reputation had been built on decades of record-breaking acquisitions, leaned back in her seat. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the number, then the screen, then the coin itself, as though she was measuring its energy in the air, trying to understand if she could match it. Her face was a mask of focus, but a flicker of astonishment betrayed her momentarily. For decades, she had seen rare coins, she had battled million-dollar auctions, but this transcended everything she had ever encountered. Even the tiniest error she had seen in 50 years could not prepare her for a single penny, igniting a bidding war that was now beyond comprehension. The man in the second row, calm and poised until this moment, now exhaled slowly. He did not flinch, he did not hesitate, but the subtle tension in his jaw told a story only a few could read. He was aware that he had entered a battle for something unprecedented, something that would define the history of coin collecting forever. His paddle hovered above his hand, motionless for a moment. Then he slowly lowered it. The decision was silent, almost invisible, but it spoke volumes. He was stepping back, leaving the field to an unseen force, an anonymous player who had suddenly claimed the crown of this legendary contest. "I in the room." Whispers spread like wildfire. Who could it be? An international billionaire? A secret museum? A collector no one knows about? Every guess seemed plausible and implausible at the same time. Eyes darted to the live stream chat, which now overflowed with thousands of comments per second. Shock, awe, disbelief, amazement, and even laughter at the absurdity of a 1-cent coin commanding this magnitude. Across the world, viewers paused in their day, staring at screens as if the coin itself had pulled them into its orbit, creating a gravitational pull no one could resist. Every collector, dealer, enthusiast, and casual observer shared a simultaneous sense of awe and impossibility. A penny. A single cent worth hundreds of millions. The auctioneer's voice rose again, steadying the room as he confirmed the new bid and declared the coin sold to the anonymous online bidder. The gavel hadn't even struck yet, but the weight of history pressed down on every soul in that hall. Cameras captured every angle, the stunned collectors, the murmuring staff, the flashes of cameras, the hundreds of eyes glued to the coin. Even the security officers seemed to feel the gravity of the moment, their usually stoic faces now etched with amazement. Then, finally, the gavel came down. The room erupted, some cheering softly, some standing in silent awe, others gasping. It was not just a sale, it was a seismic shift. Every collector present, every viewer online, every historian watching this event in disbelief understood that this moment would be remembered as the single most extraordinary sale of a modern mint era in American history. A penny that started life as a piece of pocket change had now entered a realm no one could have imagined. It was no longer just a coin. It was a symbol, a legend, a story whispered in numismatic circles for generations to come. Outside, the news spread almost instantly. Headlines appeared. $251 million penny sets record. Tiny coin, monumental value. The 1-cent wonder, auction of the century. Experts scrambled to comment. Analysts tried to rationalize the phenomenon, explaining rarity, condition, provenance, historical significance, and the psychological forces driving the auction. Yet no one could truly capture the magnitude, the sheer emotion, the surreal reality that a penny, something so ordinary, so overlooked, could redefine value itself. Scholars, collectors, and enthusiasts agreed on one thing. This coin was now immortalized. The coin itself, safely returned to its protective case, seemed to glow in its enclosure. Its surface reflected the lights in the hall, the distorted double strike shimmering with a subtle brilliance. Every flaw and error now elevated into artistry. Those who had touched it, studied it, photographed it, or simply stared at it in awe understood that it had transcended utility, commerce, and time. It had become more than copper and zinc. It had become a legend, a beacon of human fascination with rarity, mystery, and the incredible potential hiding in the most ordinary of objects. As the hall slowly emptied, the murmurs lingered. Collectors discussed the details endlessly, the precise angle of the double strike, the weight anomaly, the ghostly shadow under Lincoln's jaw, the minuscule misalignment of the mint mark. People speculated about the anonymous buyer, imagining the story behind the decision, wondering what it would feel like to be the one holding the most valuable modern coin in existence. For the auctioneer, it was a career-defining moment, one he would recall with pride and disbelief for the rest of his life. For the rest of the world, it was a reminder that sometimes magic hides in the most unlikely places, that history can be made with the smallest of objects, and that fascination, wonder, and obsession remain alive, capable of transforming even a single cent into an unparalleled treasure. The legend of the 2002 1-cent error coin was now complete, but the story, as always with treasures like this, would live on. In books, in forums, in conversations among collectors, in whispered tales of luck and discovery. The coin would never be forgotten, and the ripple of its impact would continue to inspire, to astonish, and to remind the world that extraordinary value can exist in the tiniest, most ordinary-seeming things. And somewhere, in a secure, anonymous location, the coin rested quietly, its journey paused, but its story eternal, awaiting the next generation of collectors who would marvel at its perfection, its rarity, and the improbable journey from pocket change to a $251 million legend. The auction hall slowly emptied, leaving behind an almost sacred silence, the kind that hangs in the air after witnessing something that feels larger than life itself. The coin, the 2002 1-cent error, now safely in the possession of an anonymous collector, seemed to radiate a quiet power, as though it knew the magnitude of what had just transpired. That tiny piece of metal, once worth a mere cent, had become a legend, a story whispered in awe by collectors across the globe. And yet, even in its stillness, it continued to inspire, to captivate, and to remind the world of the extraordinary potential hiding in the ordinary. For the collectors who had been present, for the viewers glued to their screens worldwide, and for the historians who would document this moment for future generations, the sale was not merely about money. It was about fascination, obsession, and the human desire to uncover the hidden treasures that lie unnoticed in plain sight. The coin symbolized hope, proof that rarity and perfection could exist in something as humble as a 1-cent piece, and that passion, patience, and knowledge could turn what was overlooked into something priceless. People would tell stories about this coin for decades, about its double strike, the ghost impressions beneath Lincoln's cheek, the minuscule weight anomalies, and the almost mystical way it had captured the collective imagination of the world that as the news spread. The story became a phenomenon beyond numismatics. The headlines proclaimed it. The internet buzzed with videos, live streams, and debates, and casual observers, who had never before considered the worth of a penny, suddenly became fascinated. Social media exploded with theories about the mysterious buyer, speculation about the coin's origin, and dreams of what it would be like to hold such a treasure. Everyone wanted to feel connected to this moment, to experience the thrill, even from afar. And in this shared fascination, the coin had transcended its physical form, becoming a symbol, a cultural touchstone, an object that united people across countries, languages, and generations. Collectors reflected on what they had witnessed. They spoke of the intense competition, the rapid-fire bids, the tension in the room, and the unbelievable numbers flashing across the screens. They remembered the silent power of the anonymous online bidder, whose actions had forever altered the course of this coin's history. And they marveled at the coin itself, the way the metal caught the light, the imperfection that had made it perfect in the eyes of those who understood its rarity, the story that had transformed it into a legend. For those who had touched it, photographed it, or studied it up close, it was more than a coin. It was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, a moment of awe, a glimpse into the rarest intersection of luck, skill, and historical happenstance. And yet, the story did not end with the auction. That tiny penny, now resting in secure anonymity, would continue to shape the world of collecting. It would inspire future generations to examine their change more carefully, to seek out errors, to dream of the possibilities that lay hidden in the most mundane objects. It would fuel conversations, research, and discoveries for decades to come. Young collectors would grow up hearing the legend, learning the story of the 2002 1-cent error that turned a simple coin into a $251 million marvel. And perhaps, someday, some of them would find the next piece of history in their own pocket changed. As the sun set on the auction hall and the cameras packed away, there was a quiet acknowledgement that something extraordinary had occurred. A coin that started life as a single cent, used in countless transactions, pocketed and forgotten by ordinary people, had become a symbol of wonder, rarity, and human fascination. Its journey, from the mint to circulation, to obscurity, to legendary auction, reminded the world that extraordinary value could exist anywhere, that history could be made in the smallest of objects, and that passion and knowledge could turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. And so, the 2002 1-cent error coin took its place in history, immortalized not just for its value, but for the story it told. A story of luck and precision, of discovery and obsession, of competition and triumph, and, ultimately, of the magic that lies hidden in even the tiniest, most overlooked things. Its legend would live forever, inspiring awe in collectors, historians, and dreamers alike, and reminding us all that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest power. The penny, a symbol of what is often taken for granted, had become a monument of possibility, a reminder that treasure can be found in the most ordinary places, and that even the smallest coin, when rare, perfect, and extraordinary, can capture the imagination of the entire world.